In 1921, Carl Jung coined the terms extrovert and introvert in his book Psychological Types. But the way these types are understood today, especially through Myers-Briggs, the popular MBTI test, is no longer the same as what Jung originally meant. And to understand how his ideas were changed, we have to start with how Jung was actually describing personality in the first place. First, let's look at extrovert versus introvert. Most people understand extroverted versus introverted as how we orient ourselves socially. The extrovert loves people and is the life of the party. The introvert prefers a good book and needs quality alone time. Jung first conceived these a bit differently. The difference of extrovert versus introvert to him was the orientation of a person's libido, or their energy. The extrovert primarily is oriented towards objects, i.e. the external world and the people in it. The introvert is primarily oriented negatively away from the external world and is motivated to lessen the power the external world has over him. Jung thought this wasn't just analogous to, but foundationally a biological adaptation, somewhat like a flight or fight response. One type achieves success through exploration and a variety of relationships, while the other through self-preservation and a monopoly of relationships. The key difference here is Jung describes how the two types orient their energy, but Myers-Briggs changes this. Myers-Briggs changes this to be about where the two types find their energy. This is the idea that extroverts recharge by being around people, and introverts recharge by being alone. Jung never made any statements like this. Next are the dominant modes of cognition. Jung saw these as two dualistic poles: thinking versus feeling, the rational functions, and sensation versus intuition, the irrational functions. Here, irrational doesn't mean crazy, it just means these functions don't perceive reality through a value judgment, but rather perceive it as it is. This is a bit confusing, so let's go over it slowly. Thinking and feeling are valuation functions. It is how the world, people, and situations are judged. If a person's primary cognitive style is one of thinking or feeling, then Jung called them a rational type. Thinking is more oriented towards external facts and objects, while feeling is a more subjective method of judgment. The other cognitive types, sensation and intuition, are perceiving functions. These are ways to understand a situation and the possibilities within it, not make a value judgment. If a person's primary cognitive style is one of these, then Jung called them an irrational type. Sensation is oriented towards objective external objects, while intuition is a subjective and rather mysterious way of understanding. Myers-Briggs added the extra judging versus perceiving to basically rebrand Jung's groupings of rational versus irrational, but also identify the auxiliary type of cognition. Judging versus perceiving refers to which cognitive function is oriented towards the external world. So if you're extroverted, then it just tells you your primary cognitive style. But if you're introverted, your primary cognitive style is negative or inwards, so judging versus perceiving tells you your auxiliary cognitive style. This is a bit confusing, so let's look at an example. ENFP, extroverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving, main cognitive style would be intuitive, because intuition versus sensation are P perceiving functions. Jung would call an ENFP an irrational type. This is how it maps onto Jung's original ideas. And in typical Jung fashion, he states that someone can become unbalanced in their personality. If this happens, this inevitably will cause a neurosis. The introvert's ultimately defensive nature causes the unconscious to be particularly oppressive or threatening if the ego becomes unbalanced. Jung wrote that the more the introverted ego struggles to preserve its independence, freedom from obligation, and superiority, the more it becomes enslaved to the objective data. The individual's freedom of mind is fettered by the ignominy of his financial dependence. His freedom of action trembles in the face of public opinion. His moral superiority collapses in a morass of inferior relationships. and his desire to dominate ends in a pitiful craving to be loved. And conversely, the extrovert's externally oriented nature puts them at risk of ignoring their subjective needs and feelings completely. The extrovert's greatest risk is in superficiality and restrictive simplicity. Their thinking can be sterile and cheap, lacking in creativity. The extrovert's unconscious gives power to the subjective, attempting to bring the full psyche, including personal history, into the present moment, and will become destructive when ignored or denied. There's, of course, a lot more to this, but let's just leave it at that for now. My own thoughts regarding Myers-Briggs is that it's a good thing. They've successfully took something as inaccessible as Jung's writing and made it popular, even if they lost some of the essence by simplifying it. Though there are some purists that think Myers-Briggs corrupted Jung's original ideas, I am not one of them. Most people will never actually read Jung's work anyway, so not much is lost here, and anything that helps people understand themselves is valuable. If you agree or disagree, please write in the comments below.